So, welcome to the Talk the Book program, the book review program that is being initiated last by Professor K. Chandra Reddy Garu, Chairman AP State Council of Higher Education, from 2020-21 on every Friday between 3 to 4 p.m. We'll be having this book review program by experts and eminence of this book review program. It will be taking place in both Telugu as well as English books. So this is to introduce the good books to the present generation who are deprived or who are not interested in book reading habit. So to inculcate the habit of book reading and going with the literature, this program was initiated by Professor K. Chandra Reddy Garu. So today we have 148th episode in English. So today the book that is being reviewed is The Inheritance of Laws by Kiran Desai. This is being reviewed by Dr. Serwani Sharma Garu.
Swamy.
Serwani Swamy Garu. She is the professor, associate professor of Anil Neerkonda Institute of Technology and Science, Visakhapatnam. She has 23 years of teaching experience and academic experience, MA, MPhil, PhD. She specialized in Indian English literature. Her thesis is Diasporic Trajectories, Tracing Diasporic Consciousness in Select Novels of Bharati Mukherjee, Jappal Lahari, Kiran Desai, and Chitra Banerjee. She has published about 16 research papers in national and international peer-reviewed journals and book chapters. She has presented papers in various national and international conferences. Her key areas of expertise are: she has experience in training BTech students in communication skills, soft skills, and employability skills. She is going to review the book, The Inheritance of Laws by Kiran Desai. This was also acclaimed as one of the best books by the peer reviewers and other things. So now I leave it to Serwani Swamy Garu to review the book, The Inheritance of Laws by Kiran Desai.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Firstly, I thank you for giving me this opportunity, and also thank the chairperson of Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education, K. Chandra Reddy Garu. So I briefly describe the book, The Inheritance of Laws by Kiran Desai. And before going forward, I would like to briefly describe about how Kiran Desai has accomplished in her task. So she is an Indian writer who has established a unique place in the literary field, creating literary history by becoming the youngest woman ever to win the prestigious prize, and that is Man Booker's Prize in 2006. Now, this book was also won the National Book Critics Circle Fiction Award for the same year. Kiran Desai has an artistic vision and flair for writing, which she seems to inherit from her mother, Anita Desai, who is an accomplished writer herself and wrote many books like Cry the Peacock, In Custody, Fasting, Feasting, and other books. Kiran Desai was born in India, stayed here, and till her 14 years later, she emigrated to USA and England, where she did her higher education in the universities like Collins and Columbia. So the main program here is to give the description about and review about the novel in The Inheritance of the Laws. So from the title, you can say that something loss happens in this particular novel. And Desai explores artistic vision in incorporating incredible insights, lodging microscopic sensitivity, sarcasm, irony, and touch of native humor. The novel is a paradigm of the third world nations' immigration into the first world, the advanced countries. So this novel generally maps two emigrations, like from the third world nations means the underdeveloped or the developing nations who dream to aspire and make a living in the advanced countries. So the whole globalization depends on this type of issues. So this particular novel, it maps issues like post-colonial predicaments, politics, insurgency movement, immigration, globalization, multiculturalism, class differences, and struggle for identity. So Desai is sensitive about lives of people and tries to understand and captures the emotions of the people. She says in an interview, I wanted to depict how we never really try to understand what life is like for other people. So that shows like how sensibly she explores in this novel. So the plot of the novel is set partly in India and partly in the US and England. So this eye captures the immigration experiences and also the Indian native environment in a very attractive style and wise. Two main immigrations happen. So one to England in 1935 and another one in the contemporary era, that is to America in 1980s. Both these immigrations vary in different ways because one immigration happens during the colonial period and the other one is post-colonial period. So before going ahead, I'd like to discuss the characters in this novel. The main characters are the four characters. One is the judge Jemubhai Patel. He is the head of the household at Cho Oyu. It is the name of the house, the dilapidated house. That means the old house which is constructed by the judge very prestigiously. And he stays there with his granddaughter Sai. He immigrates to England for Cambridge education because graduating in England is a celebrated and a matter of pride in Indian communities at the time. And in fact, the outcome of the infamous Macaulay's Minute of February 1955 on Indian education, which declares the superiority of the colonial education over the native education. And as a result, the colonizer had a power on the colonized, creating natives into anglicized hybrids. So, Jemomai is one such Anglophile who always mimicked the English culture and modern style. His father, Boman Bhai Patel's main aim is to send him to England and at any cost make him an ICS officer, that means Indian Civil Services Examination, and which holds a high honorable position in his community. Sai is another character. She is the granddaughter, that means the judge's daughter's daughter, who also adapts English culture in St. Augustine's convent, where she was taught English culture and the living style. So that is why she is more close in culture wise. Then another character is Biju. Biju is the cook's son, the cook who works at Jamubai Patel, and his son always desired to have a very high and rich life like the others. So this makes him form a desire to live like an English, like Angrez ki tarah. He keeps on saying these words, Angrez ki tarah. And he immigrates to America, who has a desire to live like English and earn a lot of money for his family. Biju immigrates in 1986 in post-colonial period during the globalization period. The cook. The cook is again an interesting character. He works in the judge's place, in the judge's dilapidated uh, building where he lives for years. So for 14 years, he has been serving his master, the judge. And he is an old and unfortunate cook because with a with a very small amount he works, but he is loyal and dependable on the judge. Then another character is Gyan. Gyan is Sai's 20-year-old Nepali math tutor who gets attracted to each other later. But however, due to the classism and the cultural differences, their relationship is never maintained. So that again shows a loss. Nimi is the judge's wife and Sai's maternal grandmother. She is 14 when she marries the judge. The two do not build a bond, and Jemubai has to migrate to England, and he could not accomplish good married relationship with Nimi because the cultural variation is there, and Jamubhai Patel is more adapted to the alien culture, that is the allied culture or English culture, whereas Nimi is totally a native person, which the judge cannot accept it. Noni is one of the judge's neighbors who lives with her sister Lola. Lola and Noni, both are anglicized sisters, and Sai gets adapted to Noni. And during her schooling, like Noni, when she returns to the judge's house, uh, when she becomes an orphan, and Noni becomes the first tutor to her, because the judge does not want Sai to study in the local schools, because he does not like the language that is used in the local areas, because he is more into the English culture. And the sister Lola, Noni's sister, and she lives in the house which belonged to her husband Joydeep, who passes away suddenly due to heart attack. And both Lola and Noni, they live together. And these are the people who are the neighbors to the retired judge. Father Booty and Uncle Potty, these two other people who are just minor characters, and who face imbalances, and they live near the house of judge. And Uncle Potty, who is from England, and he bought his house from judges years ago, and his father and his friend Father Booty from Switzerland and settled in India, and he runs a Swiss dairy. So this is how all these people, they stay together, and but they have their own problems and issues. And at the backdrop, they have a very drastic this the struggle that is happening at a backdrop is the post-colonial separation, that is GNLF movement. So the author shows how these issues have been mapped in the novel, and now comes to the plot of the novel. The novel is located in the surroundings of the quintessentially serene northeastern region, Kalimpong state in India, situated at the foot of Mount Kanchenjunga. The novel portrays the year 1980s at the backdrop of insurgency movement. Now, what is insurgency movement? So during this period, after independence, many of the states were divided due to the cultural difference or the language difference. Whereas the Gorkha land, the people in Gorkha land were the majority of the people, but they were connected with the West Bengal. So this portion of the Gorkha land, they are struggling. They wanted a separation from the the rest of the state, because they think that they have been uh, not treated well, or they have been deprived of the privileges they have to get. So this is the struggle, or the the situation there, which becomes very serious by the end of the story. So this I brings out the tranquility of the place, for such characters yearn for peace when there is no peace within. So she selects Kalimpong as a backdrop because she is fascinated by the naturally unrippled ambience she experiences, like Gorkha movement herself. So that is how she tries to place this type of issue in her novel. The inheritance of loss is positioned in the town of Kalimpong, the model of peace. The protagonist of the novel, Jaimubai Patel, is a self-loathing, cold-hearted person, indifferent to emotions. He is an absolute loner, lives in isolation at Kalimpong after his retirement at Choyu. Now, to describe about Choyu, it is a dilapidated colonial house he bought from a Scottish person in 1957, and which has a dignity and spacious, and it shows the resemblance of the British elegance. So as the years pass, it becomes very old and loses its glory. So it resembles the glory lost by the judge. So once the judge was very prestigious, but as he ages, he loses his prestige in the village. The novel begins at the judge, the old house Cho Oyu, and his granddaughter Sai sitting on the veranda of the home while the cook makes tea and the dog's Mutt. Mutt sleeps on the porch. So Mutt is the very favorite dog of the judge, and apart from anybody, the judge mostly likes this particular dog, and he is the one companion he loves the most. A set of boys from the Gorkha National Liberation Front, that is GNLF, arrive and demand that the judge hand over his guns, threatening them with the rifle and stealing anything of the valuable that they find in the house. And the judge then sends the cook to the police station. The police returns home and accuses the cook of having a hand in this robbery. They tear apart the house and they find some letters from his son, the Biju. Now, the story goes back to Biju, who works at a restaurant that is Grace Papaya in the heart of Manhattan, but is asked to leave when the manager of the restaurant is instructed to do a green card check. So Biju's story tells us about the globalization. He works in various restaurants, and they have to run helter skelter when the authorities they come checking for legalization of the natives. And Biju, who goes there on a visiting visa, which expires, and he becomes an illegal immigrant. So Biju moves from one restaurant than other, and in search of living. The narrative shows how Sai arrives at the judge's place 9 years ago at the age of 8. So Sai, she had left St. Augustine's convent where she had grown up with the English custom because her mother and father had recently passed away due to an accident. So the nuns find the address of her grandfather and they return her to the judge. The judge is only pleased that they seem to be accustomed to the same foreign cultures. So somehow the judge is get adapts to her granddaughter, to his granddaughter, because they share the same culture. The situation takes back to the memory when he was sent from his home at the age of 20 to study Indian civil service examination at Cambridge. So Jemubai is in fact a pride of his family and community. He is not rich as he is now, but he was very poor and very hardworking from Gujarat. The first person to hold honor of the Indian civil service examination in his family under British government. He was born in 1919 in a small town called Pipit in Gujarat. He was brought up in pre-independence, colonial period, and captured by colonial influence. His schooling in local Bishop Cotton School increases his desire to ape the English culture. So most of his behavior changes during his convent education. His father, fascinated that his son can be the district commissioner or a high court judge. So to accomplish that dream, they they have to depend on the dowry bids. So they have taken some loans, but somehow they have to depend on the dowry because now Desai brings out the dowry system on which at that particular era the person has to get married just because of dowry. So Jemubhai is one person who marries a 14-year-old wife, Nimi, in a sense that he has to immigrate and he has to earn his degree. But he never accepts his wife as he thinks that she is below his culture. So here the culture comes between the two cultures, that is the foreign culture and the Indian native culture. So Jemabai feels pity for his parents and feels humiliated and indignant for the life he led in Pipit because it brings him only the dark side of his life. So he never tries to remember his parents or his wife. At Cambridge, he was treated like an outcast and a second class citizen and barely spoke to people. He began to find his own skin color odd and his own accent strange. He spent most of his time studying. He experiences mortification and estrangement, which transforms him into inferiorly unapproachable person withdrawn into a shell of loneliness. So Jemubai Patel, he could not mingle with everyone. So this is the reason, because he is unable to mix with others and talk openly, because he always was displeased by his own personality. The white people teased him for his accent, complexion, smell, which makes him to stay in his rooms for hours. That morning, after Sai arrives, the cook takes her to meet her new tutor, Noni. In the second year, now the story goes back to Biju. Now Biju joins in the second year to French restaurant, where he is removed when the customer complains that he smells of food. So this type of discrimination goes on in the global world, where the workers have been discriminated for either smell, the class, or the color. He then takes a job at Chinese restaurant. He used to deliver food in the freezing cold winters. He used to cycle and deliver, but somehow he was unable to deliver the food on time, and when it gets cold, was thrown out of the job. This makes Biju agonized. He thinks this as a personal matter, and he feels nostalgic for his own. So for the first time, he cries like a small baby, and he feels the pathetic condition of his, like he cannot go home. At the same time, he wants to live there, but he cannot live in such pathetic condition. So this is the globalization period. Biju returns to the basement in Harlem, where he lives with other undocumented migrants in destitute condition. He then gets another job at the Queen Star's Bakery. When Sai becomes 16 years, Noni realizes that she will need another tutor for math and science. So the judge appoints Yan, a 20-year-old graduate who was looking for a job. Now, Sai and Yan, they become very friendly and they get attracted to each other. But however, the relation is little different, because culturally they are different, class-wise they are different, and the attitude-wise they are different. So they want to be close, but these things they come between their relationship. Later, at the Queen of Tarts bakery, Biju meets a Muslim man from Zanzibar named Saeed and Saeed. They become good friends, and they deal the problem of the underground system of being illegal immigrants living in the basements of the restaurants and living with undocumented. At Kalimpong, whenever Sai asked the cook about the judge's wife, he hated to tell her about her, because they hardly shared any good moments with her. The cook, meanwhile, sends letters to Biju asking him to help others to get to America, but they hardly know the plight of those people. Biju and other workers, they do not realize like how important is green card. Then shortly after his incident, the Queen of Tarts bakery, it closes, and again he has to shift to another restaurant. On the other side, Gyan and Sai's romance begins to bloom when he's struck at the house due to a monsoon. So Gyan at that particular time tells her that his parents have worked for Indian British Army during the colonial period, and he gives some of his experiences while they were working. Meanwhile, Lola and Noni, they discuss the growing political unrest of the Nepalis living in India, who are demanding a separate state, more job opportunities, and schools that would teach them Nepali. So the Gorkha National Liberation Front, that is GNLF, a group of Nepali people demanding statehood in the country. So they wage violence throughout the area. They make strike. They break things, and they close the shops, and they create a lot of chaos in the area in Kalampong. And Biju later quits from a restaurant called Bridget's as he feels that unhappy to serve us tea. So here he realizes that he has to keep his ethical standards with him. So he does not want to betray his loyal faithfulness towards his culture. He realizes that it is important to him to retain his value, and so he quits the job and goes to work in the Gandhi Cafe, which is run by a man named Harish Harry. Harish Harry invites the staff to live in the basement below the kitchen, but then pays them a quarter of minimum wage. So with the minimum wage, these people, they are taking advantage of these illegal immigrant workers who don't have any proper documents and a green card. So this is called as global movement of globalization, the main problem of globalization. Sai is multicultural and celebrates Christmas with Lola and Noni, Uncle Potty, and Father Booty. So, because she adapts to the other culture very easily, she becomes distant to Gyan. So, after New Year, Gyan once sees a procession of young men from the GNLF who project their complaints and demands. So, till then, Gyan was uh, indifferent to all the problems faced by their community. But later he realizes that how he is also one among them and he wants to do something for the community. So the next day, Gyan meets Sai and takes his frustration on her and teases her for her elite culture. So here the judge remembers how his and Nimmi's relationship had turned sour. So when he returned from England, he seems to be indifferent to his wife. He insists that she should speak English only and she follow English customs. He discards her bangles and he throws away her hair, and he does not like the way she goes to the toilet, and he wants her to use the Western toilets and all. So he then leaves her at their home while he went away. So he never used to accompany her, and he used to treat her, beat her, and kick her. So this makes him even remorseful. So the judge's character is such that he used to be a frustrated person, and he used to take all his frustration on the people who are minor to him. Sometime later, Jan tries to apologize, but they only return to their fight about English customs. So, the cultural wise, they are two different people. Class wise, they are two different people. So, the mindsets of these two people was not coordinating with each other. Sai accuses him of being a hypocrite for enjoying Western things like cheese, toast with her, but making fun of them. At that moment, Gyan tells his friends at the GNLF about the judge's guns, who later steal from the judge. So he is the main person who gives the clue that there was a gun at the judge's place and who steals. The cook thinks about how he makes efforts to send Biju abroad. So he makes a lot of effort to send. Now, in the present poor family like Cook, it was very difficult for him to get a visa, and he wanted to make his dream come true. So he makes fake bank statements and other documents and managed to get a tourist visa. At the Gandhi Cafe, 3 years at America, Biju slips on a rotten spinach and he demands Harry to pay for a doctor for him. But Harry refuses, and moreover, he suggests that why he does not go back to India. So this makes him feel very hurt, and he tries to return to his own country. Father Boti happens to do a small work near the checkpost, and he is stopped by the police. And later on, it was discovered that he is in India illegally and is quickly deported to his own country. So, this Father Boti is again a lack of identity, who does not have a home, and who has to leave his own home for years he was living in here. So suddenly he has to depart from the place which he thought that it was his home. Meanwhile, the police picks up a drunk man and accuses him of stealing the judge's gun. They beat him up brutally. His wife comes and pleads to the judge, but he ignores her, and this infuriates her. Biju comes to know about the Gorkha unrest in the city, and he feels worried about his father. The strike in the Kalimpong continue, and the Nepalis put up tents in the front of Lola and Noni's property. So Sai goes to find Gyan at his home and sees how poor he actually is. So when Sai goes there, she sees the poor huts around and the destitute living standard of Gyan. So Gyan's sister, she comes to know that Sai has come to meet him. And when she sees that there is a cultural difference, she complains it to the family because they want to safeguard Gyan. They don't want the people, the GNLF people, to hit Gyan. For this reason, she alerts his family that Gyan should not go to the GNLF protest. Then the next day, the cook also attends the protest because the GNLF is forcing each family to send a male representative to focus on their demand and make their demands much more fruitful. So then other rocks and pelts and stones they fly from each other's side, some from police and some from the public side, and which due to which number of people they are hurt, but the police has to run away because they were unable to control the GNLF people, and they have to take shelter in the private homes. Then at the end, Biju decides to return home to India despite warnings not to. So his father was warning that he should not return because the unrest in the country and they do not have food here. He has to earn money in America, but somehow he is unable to survive and he comes back. The incidents of horror continues in Kalimpong. There are many robberies and acts of arson. People are trying to fire, hit people, and most of the time they are trying to target the localites. Then the innocent man who was caught by the police for stealing, tries to take revenge on the judge. Now she comes and pleads to the judge, but the judge disregards her. So she becomes very angry, and one fine day she steals Mud, the dog, which was a very favorite pet animal for the judge. She steals him so that she can sell her and make money. So the judge and the cook later find that Mutt is not available or Mutt is missing. So the judge, the cook, and Sai all they try to search for her. And later the judge goes and complains to the police. But the police was quite critical, saying that he does not see the chaos going on among the people. Many people are dying, whereas he's trying to complain about his missing dog. So he critically remarks on him. So the judge thinks back once when he loses his promotion, he feels embarrassed. Then he targets his wife. He curses and beats his wife. He goes away from him and stays with her sister. So this was his temperament with his wife, and he never used to treat his wife in a very friendly or emotional way. So that is why she goes away for permanently. Goes away to a sister and stays there. And after giving birth to his daughter, he never even tries to think or take care of the daughter. He never bothers to see her. Sometime later, they find Nimi die in a fire accident. So this fire accident seems to be like planned or targeted by her brother-in-law. So this is how Nimi passes away, but it leaves a mark on Sai's impression. Biju finds that there are no buses to Kalimpong as he reaches India because at Kalimpong the unrest increases, and because of the political situation he is unable to get. So he tries to walk, And while he was walking, he finds some of the people from GNLF personality, and he asks for a lift. And when he takes a ride from some GNLF men, they rob him of all his belongings. So Biju, who brings some things for his home and the suitcases from America for his family, all the things were stolen by the GNLF people. So Biju tries to return with it with nothing in his hands. So the judge becomes angry over the mutt's disappearance and blames the cook and threatens to kill him. Being guilty, the cook says that you beat me, and I don't want to live anymore. So gradually, the judge was trying to literally kick him. Then Sai intervenes and stops him and saying that, what are you doing? We should not do this. And then Gyan also resolves to find mud for Sai, but in vain. They are not able to get the search dog anywhere. So the dog tries to hit him, but Sai intervenes. At that moment, then they hear the sound of the gate, the tattering sound of the gate, which tells that somebody was entering the gate. And to their astonishment, they find that Biju has returned. The father with the teary, the cook, the father of Biju, with the teary eyes, he goes and hugs Biju. So this is one area where the author shows the unity or union of the father and the son after a gap of 3 years. So this is one interesting aspect. And anyway, the author shows that as they move and as they meet, as morning breaks over the mountains. So the last sentence, as morning breaks over the mountains, shows that there is still a life over this sad moments or this lost moments. So this is how the author concludes. Now, the analysis is there is alienation. Jemubhai, Biju, and Gyan, they are all people of cracked identities who face alienation. So, colonial imperialism addresses the alienation. Jemubhai, an anglicized immigrant, enters England with a hope to experience the English glamour and wants to have a touch of the first world at a time when imperialism reigned supreme and empowered over the colonized the third world. So this period when the Indians were treated as mere nomads. So English people had a dominance over the Indian people and they targeted them. On a ship, when he was traveling to England, they see the benches were titled as for Indians only and for Europeans only. So this displays discrimination, and the white people teased him for his accented complexion and smell. So this makes him a person of embarrassment. So due to embarrassment, he feels alienated and he is in an ambivalence. He doesn't become totally uh, of the alien culture and he doesn't adopt the Indian culture. So he seems to be in the always struggle in the middle of the culture. That is why he seems to be very reclusive, close, and very frustrated. So another theme is globalization. So immigration to developed countries exposes the dark side of globalization. So there are a number of people from the developing countries who needed work and who wanted to earn money in the developed countries. So Biju is one such person. He wanted to earn money and they made a living in the basements hiding from the authorities. So the workers come from various ethnic backgrounds and they used to face these conflicts. Biju loses his job and based on his culture, which shows racism, culture and color, which shows racism and discrimination. So his problems are economical, cultural, and emotional. In India, where Gyan suffers trauma of displacement and loss of identity, on the other hand, Biju changes his jobs from one to another, suffers displacement, loss of an identity, and alienation. So the bigotry of class distinction between whites and non-whites, dark, are dominated by the affluent multicultural society. The illegal immigrants are alienated and taken advantage by the ruthless owners. Biju, the cook's son, and other nationals, they become victimized by globalization, yearning to fall prey to the exploitation. So Desai presents one side hope and the other side despair. Jagme Bhai becomes successful because he adapts and admires the country. On the other plane, the cook's son Biju, he tastes both bitterness and he returns unsuccessful. So this shows that globalization and the desire to earn more has made him at loss. But ultimately, there is one positive thing that he reunites with his father, and they want to make a new beginning. So the ending sentence is like there is a sunrise at the end, which shows that there is a new beginning for them. So uh, this is the brief summary of it. Apart from this, there is homelessness. So some of the people who have been living for years in their homes, they were sent away from their home because of GNLF movement. So the intruders, that is GNLF people, the Gurkha people community. So they displaced the people who were living for years. And Lola and Noni, who thought that they have owned their own property, but later they become vulnerable that these people they may be displaced because such insurgency movement. So this I brings out such emotions by or such emotions of people and brings out all these themes, showcasing how these people have faced these problems, try to sort it out, and at the end they show that at some point of time they realize. So the judge at the end, he tries to realize when he loses much, and he also sees how Sai has changed, and he also begins to have a rapport with her and tries to bridge the gap between the daughter, the granddaughter. So this is the gist of the novel, and I uh, thank you, sir, for this opportunity. And this is the major summary and brief summary. Thank you, sir. Over to you. So Kiran Desai has also written the novel like Hula Bulla in the Go Orchard is located in India, which represents native observations, where a second novel is The Inheritance Law, located in the foothills of Himalaya, and not only in India but also oscillate through three countries and three continents before falling into the global novel. It is set partly in India and partly in US and England. So Desai captures the immigrant experience and also the Indian native environment in a very attractive style and poise. The novel is a novel crossing borders to two international countries, that is in 1935 and the America in 1980s. The novel negotiates through cross-cultural movements, sometimes favorable, sometimes unfavorable, surely not the same, but a beginning of a new, different life. Desai chooses appropriate location to bring about the beauty and location of the country. The novel is in the surroundings of quintessential serene northeastern region Kalimpong and state in India situated at the foothill of Mount Kanchenjunga. So the novel portrays at the backdrop of insurgency movements, but it seems to be immigration displayed in the place along the year 2000 because the issues portrayed seem contemporary. As Pankaj Mishra says, observes that despite being set in mid-80s, it seems the best kind in which also reflects the 9/11 moment. She remembers the utter bliss that she experienced sitting under the dining table, pulling the toes of her three siblings and parents. She also recalls the family holidays in Kalimpong. So she traces these experiences in her novel. She manages to fathom internal struggles in independent India as well as the immigrant struggle in multinational countries. She uncovers anguish felt by the Gorkha community, a struggle for self identity, striving for empowerment in post colonial scenario. She blends these issues with embedment, human illegal immigration in her novel. So Desai incidentally did part of her schooling at the St. Joseph's Convent at the hill town before immigration, and which she depicts, and she sees herself, her reflection in Siam. So it depicts the issues of immigration during the colonial period and the post-colonial period. She narrates a strong basis of historical immigration of Nepalese in 1800. So the colonial period, during the colonial period and post-colonial period, the insurgency movement of Gorkha for a separate state, but however, it was not fulfilled. The characters in the novel depicted are, are in the pre-independence as well as in the post-independence, and they live in Indian history. So the story begins in 1986 in the tranquility of the at the foothills of Kalimpong. The instigate agitation becomes a colossal moment, disturbing the serenity of Kalimpong and disturbs the serene on the other plane of the story, contesting global issues of transnational movements picking up its piece in native India. Mapping the significant issues is the major immigration in the pre-independence movement in 1955. So this is how the diasporic consciousness is gives the author a different idea, opinion to map hybridity, alienity, and mimicry during the colonial period, and which is carried forward in the post-colonial period. So the novel chronicles the five main characters in the novel. All the characters they show various issues which are portrayed by the author. The scattering of the people from the land of origin to the alien land is hyphenated and leaves behind a trail of memories. So the struggle to accustom to alien nation becomes a Herculean task which transforms the immigrants into fractured identity. The recent global movements bring homogeneous cultures negotiating globalization. This interconnectivity is weaving of cultures together, encouraging ideas and traditions from one culture to bond and blend with the other. So Cohen discusses cosmopolitanism, global cities in the context of diaspora, articulates in the age of globalization, the language skill familiarity with other countries and contacts in other countries make many members of diaspora highly competitive in the international labor service. Noni and Lola, the science tutor, and Viju, all have close association with the foreign culture. The dilemma in each of these experiences result in the division between cultures. The question of home, belongingness is experienced in both transnational and national, leaving the expatriates in a constant flux. As a representation, the study argues that diasporic consciousness focusing on mimicry, ambivalence, and hybridity. So the author shows all these characters somewhere in the ambivalence, and they also nostalgic about the loss of their property, the loss of the past, like Jemubhai Patel, who always seems to be in a closed shell because he does not want to go back in his memories. So he closes himself from the outside world, which makes him a very cold hearted person. On the other hand, the illegal immigration, where Biju sees that the strive for green card, so which gives him an authentication to stay legally. So this strive goes on and he never gets that. Somehow, by illegal moment again, he returns home. So the diasporic communities in 1930 varies from that of the immigration in 1980s. So the early immigrations are very traumatic conditions, but later, when in the during the globalization, the problems are little different. So as shown by Kiran Desai, some of the present era globalization means the cultural, highly different culture other than the very traumatic conditions. This system is little different than the older diaspora. So the novel demonstrates bigotry, negotiating discrimination based on culture, race, class, and nation. The novel simultaneously oscillates from Kalimpong, India, to England and to New York and America. That means mapping three countries and three continents. The inheritance of laws, the title suggests just juxtaposition, inheritance without gain, expressing a negative connotation. Could fulfill could fulfillment ever be felt as deeply as loss? So that was the sentence given by Kiran Desai in the novel. So the novel examines the notion of loss all through and concludes with the pessimistic end. Dispossession of what they initially had. So Desai combines two opposite terms in inheritance means legacy of the fortune from the past to the term loss. She wants to say the novel focuses deprivation, destruction, destitution, and disposition. As illustrated in the novel, the characters are insecure, ambiguous, and unanchored. The plot is complex, but the narration is lucid, probing traditional issues, imaging sensitive areas of people who are displaced and the families who yearn for their well being back in India and what emigration means to them. It examines the plight of shadowed class people bearing hope of survival in the alien land. It has strong, lively characters, extremely different in their depiction. So the novel is frequently positioned in the town as a model of peace, but later they see that there is no peace at all. The protagonist of the novel, he reflects a close, self-loathing, whole-hearted person, indifferent of emotions. He is an absolute loner, lives in isolation, which is quite suitable to Kalimpong. So with this, I would like to close. So finally, I'd like to say that The Inheritance of Loss is the story of loss, but at the end of the novel, they see the light, that is the sun rises from the mountain, which shows that there might be a positive chance. So thank you. Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Over to you, sir.